Grifter's Bible, a novel by El Shaboons, read by El Shaboons, with sound design by Monumental Sonic Architecture. Chapter 17, When Two Churches Clash. "What are you doing?" I groaned at Seth's painted grin. His clear ocean eyes were a foot wide and a foot high. The legend, the First Electric Church of Jesus Christ, where the Spirit of the Lord is, Brother Joseph Smith presiding, was woven into the glow of his satin-finished gaze. "What?" Seth admired his graven image on the side of the bus as he spoke back through grinning teeth. The last of the street team finished wrapping up the day's business at the kitchen and then went to wash up and grab their packs. The high rotation of the Right Reverend's commercial had turned Seth's eye to the west and gotten him sniffing the wind for blood. I had tried to talk him out of it for as long as I could, but it was out of my hands. Seth finally pulled the trigger when he noticed the Right Reverend's name popping up in the recommended titles on our video page. It was the first week of February. Seth was ready to let fur fly. "If I have to look at that smug old grunt every time there's a spot break during the Price is Right, then he can feast his eyes on my legendary face driving up and down his block every day." I frowned. "What? I'm needling." Seth shrugged. "The old turd is needling us. We're needling back. Needling." I could hear Seth's voice tightening as he tried to reason. "It's nothing wrong. It's not illegal. It's just business." "Yeah, but what's it gonna get us?" The accordion door of the bus unfolded and Dwayne called down the stairs. "One way or another, this'll be one interesting trip." He hooted and put the parking brake on. He let the engine idle. "It looks pretty good." Dee patted the cartoon of Seth's face and then hurried inside to catch a free burrito from the leftovers for the road. Lester and Chester Doors carted the last few boxes of CDs out from the sanctuary. They loaded them through the emergency exit and then got in. Lips Ahoy closed and secured the emergency exit door like a stewardess. They looked tired, but they refused to stop. Seth lit them up. They kept going for him. "It's not like I'd send the crew into danger, you know," Seth pointed out. I didn't know any such thing. "Oak Cliff is Mary and Dwayne's neighborhood, too. Dee's got every right to boogaloo down Broadway all the livelong day, even if it is in a bus with my face all over it." Seth lifted his chin, mirroring the cant of his strong jaw on the sideboards. Dwayne waddled up with a chipmunk pouch full of scrambled eggs and sausage. The stragglers from the street team followed him out. Seth slapped on his benevolent leader hat. "Make sure everyone gets a big water so they can stay hydrated all day." He palmed hundreds off a brick of bills as thick as a deck of cards. "You need more?" Dwayne did a double take at what Seth had already laid in his palm. He swallowed a gulp. "This is Jefferson Boulevard. It ain't uptown." Seth clambered a magnanimous hand on Dwayne's bowled-over shoulder. "Keep the change for your trouble, brother. You're working for the Lord now." Dee could feed the crew and keep the bus fueled up for its first foray onto the Reverend's home turf and still have a couple hundred left for himself. He could stay afloat with a daily salary like that. Dwayne inserted the remnants of the burrito into his maw and then wiped his hands on his pants. He gave the two of us a bump and a hug, and that settled the per diem and Dwayne's unemployment. He was one of us. Dee started getting weepy, so he retreated up into the stairwell and reached for the door release. The brakes let out a pneumatic gasp. Ancient mechanics turned in the belly of the whale. Seth stepped back to wave at all the faces behind glass. The gang threw down the windows and poked their arms and faces out to shower love down on his head. His grin was bent out of neon. He threw both hands up in a V. "Bound for glory! Onward to victory!" Seth hollered at the top of his lungs. The bus thunderclapped a belch of exhaust. We stepped back out of the steel blue cloud of carbon monoxide. "The Reverend's likely to get dirty if you piss him off," I digressed, no longer sotto voce, "and his two sons look ready to throw at a moment's notice. Those boys are corn-fed and hostile. Mean. They keep acting like they want to beat the living tar out of me. No bones about it." The bus wheezed away from the curb. Dwayne honked the horn as he turned the corner onto Walton. Everyone waved back at everyone. The bus passed out of sight. Seth seemed to lose patience for our debate. "Damn it, Glasses, I swear. Grow a set and rally." He growled like a poked bear. "This is no time to go sissy on me. That buzzard will pick both our bones clean if we let him. I want to see you acting like you got some fight in you." "I've never been in a fight." I sounded like a snail. I'm not trying to get punched.
What?
Seth seemed utterly confused.
So what if you get socked? A little blood builds character.
A lot of blood will make you a man like me. The opportunity to puff up and boast seemed to diffuse Seth's impatience.
I've been in enough fights for the both of us, so trust me.
He poked me in the belly.
They never hurt as much as they look like they're going to.
I stifled a sneeze. He turned to walk inside the gate.
Besides, you're not on fight detail. You're on phone duty.
What does that mean? I was already tired. The gate rang home and he pulled out his deck of bills.
We need 30 burners. Just get whichever phone is easiest to reload minutes on. The cheaper the better. Free would be nice.
What are we doing now?
The crew's gonna start cold calling. Spread that word. Tell them all to watch. I don't care. I want that million views.
Old Chuck Vu sells $5 phones to all his people so they can call back home for free. He knows how to skim unused minutes off the networks.
Well, looky there.
Seth was nonchalant.
Call Fat. He can give you a ride.
What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna go call that reporter from the Century. I want to see some more of my inches in print. Now stop asking questions.
Chuck Vu was standing on his front lawn in his bathrobe and socks in the middle of the sprinklers when Fat pulled up into the driveway. I left Fat in the car listening to Terry Gross.
How'd he do it?
Chuck's glasses were covered in spray and his eyes were multiplied into hundreds. I told him about the helium hood that Joey said James had had over his head when they found him. I told him about Joey and all of the booby traps. I started to continue, but Chuck put his finger up to his lips and motioned for me to follow him. I nodded at Fat to hang loose. Then I went with Chuck over to the side of the house. I waited until we were inside the silence behind the 15-foot tall privacy gates that surrounded his backyard. Then I unloaded. I told him all about the DMT vision and how Joey had brought Visuddhimagga to Deep Ellum. I told him about the biometrics and what the zip drive had almost done to Kendall's computer. A kill switch. I clicked my tongue.
Where is it now?
Chuck's eyes flashed.
Let me see it.
It's stowed somewhere. I didn't want to say. I reckon it's safe enough. I asked him what he thought it all meant. Chuck screwed up his face.
I don't think James went to all that trouble just for a kill switch. That's some roundabout nonsense, even for him.
Chuck meandered past the garage and his workroom. He left the garden path and kept walking in the grass towards a freestanding shed at the back of the yard. He spoke over his shoulder.
It's like Joey said. Encryption was second nature for James. I bet you $1 million there's something buried on a partition somewhere on that drive. There's an onion there. Start peeling. See how far you can get.
Chuck reached the shed and bent down to disable the hockey puck lock on the door.
If you don't find anything, then I'm chunking all of this.
Chuck pulled the sliding door open and revealed several dilapidated cardboard boxes stacked just inside amid the clutter of picnic furniture and stacks of computer skeletons. He towed the moldy boxes.
James commissioned me to build these last spring.
I stepped in and looked down into the piles of shiny but inert black plastic discs sparkling like obsidian fish eyes.
They're self-inducting toroidal solenoids. They have dipoles and Bluetooth. James never picked him up. Next thing I hear, he was in the hospital. He never paid and I felt too bad to bring it up. Now I'm out all the money I gave for materials.
What do they do? My head was turning around like an archaeologist uncovering a tomb full of alien treasure. Chuck shook his mop head.
I don't know what James was going to do with them. He just gave me the specs and said it was a rush.
Chuck reached down into the top box and lifted one of the black eggs up so I could inspect it.
Do you want to buy them?
It looked like it was staring back at me.
I don't know.
It made me antsy.
I don't know what I'd do with them.
I pushed his hand away. Listen, can I just get those phones? We walked back to his shop. He gave me 30 burners with network access chips. I didn't need to dicker one little bit. He said he just had them sitting around, so he gave them up for free. I don't know why, but a wave of dread fell over me. I carried the bag of phones like a cache of dirty diapers. Fat and I left for home, and I watched the mirror the whole way. I scanned the eve for birds when we pulled up outside the church. All the mockingbirds had scattered. It was getting dark outside. I heard the guttural yawp of the bus's brakes screeching to a halt behind us. I got all het up when I saw the crew's heads hanging lifeless. I stepped to the door to check on Dwayne. He was hugging the steering wheel like he was running on vapors. Then he opened his eyes and saw me. I stepped back and Dwayne drowsily grabbed the release. I pulled the door wide open.
Why are you so late getting back?
I was ready for disaster. Is everyone okay? I worried over the engine's Detroit rumble. Phew! Dwayne blew the exhaustion out of his tired lungs and rubbed his red eyes to tears.
Well, Brother Nick, we didn't make it out clean.
My heart dropped. What do you mean?
We must have picked up a hunk of metal in that front left tire. It was shredded. I had to get out and change her in the HOV lane just now. Caused a traffic jam something fierce. I got headaches in my legs and my feet feel like they've been in a fist fight.
Did the tire look like it had been messed with? I was scrounging for catastrophe. Dwayne patted the steering wheel.
I was with her the whole day, except when we were eating at the char grill. Nobody messed with it.
Dwayne turned his eyes up in thought.
No, pretty much everybody was real happy to see us. I rode around playing the CD over the speaker and hollered all morning long. I picked up a pretty good crowd, so I parked behind the restaurant over there and set up shop. I sold a pretty good number just waiting on the folks to get back from their walking. It was all pretty easy for me. Them too. I don't know how long we can keep it up, but we all sold out today.
I was confused. I stepped up in the stairwell and looked back at the street team nodding in the bench seats. I looked back at Dwayne.
You sold out of all those CDs? We did.
Dwayne nodded.
Lester's got your box.
Dwayne smiled like he'd swallowed a delicious canary. I stepped up as Lester limped to the front of the aisle. I asked him,
how many CDs did you sell?
Sold out!
The entire street team grinned.
Sold out?
I smiled at Lester.
Sold them all.
Lester yawned as he edged his way forward, holding up the lockbox like a trophy.
I bet you could just about choke a giraffe with all of this here.
I hefted the weight. I thumbed the latch. The lid popped open like a snake in a can. Dollar bills spilled out like pillow stuffing.
Franken!
A gruff voice called my name. I dipped my head down to look out the nearest window. It was Seth, and he was pissed. I stepped out of the stairwell.
Give us a second, will you, D?
I asked Dwayne.
Sure, I'll pull around back.
I stepped off of the bus, trying to remember if I'd done anything wrong.
The fat man's playing dirty.
Seth fumed.
Do you mean the flat tire?
I jabbed a thumb in the bus's direction.
What?
He turned his nose up.
No, not that.
Seth had something on his one-track mind.
I think he got her fired. Who got who fired?
Seth blew a gasket.
The reporter down at the Century. She thinks the Reverend got her booted off the staff. Editorial board said she wasn't acting in good faith in her coverage of the church.
She said it was the Reverend?
Come on, man.
He threw his hands up.
They can't come out and say it was him, but he's on the board.
He shook his head. Seth was a cornered tiger.
Give me those phones. We're going to work tonight.
He ripped the shopping bags out of my hands. The street team made calls until 10 that night. I stayed up until midnight burning CDs. The next morning when Dwayne walked out behind the church to pull the bus around, the accordion door was standing wide open. He said it was freezing inside, and he figured out why when he saw the emergency exit at the back was also open. Nothing was touched. Nothing was taken. No vandalism was left behind. Only morning dew. There was nothing for a soldier to do but shut the doors and pick up the crew around front for another sojourn down Jefferson Boulevard. I walked them out to meet him with the day's product. The mockingbird population was awful thin along the ledge. That afternoon, the street team came home with another stuffed cash box and a receipt for a tow truck. The spare was shredded, so Dwayne had to call for a tow to the tire shop. Seth hit the roof. Dwayne confirmed.
A couple of old boys were getting frisky with the crew right before we left. They followed them all the way from Hampton back to the bus, lighting firecrackers off at them, trying to look at their money. I got back with the new tires and everyone jumped on the bus.
He shook his head.
They didn't want to eat, so we skedaddled on out of there.
The next morning, all of the bus's windows were down. Someone had taken a big leak in the aisle. It had frozen in the cold. I told him not to, but Seth sent the flock back to Oak Cliff for the day. Sure enough, Dwayne said a crew of about 10 guys came up to him on Jefferson and started escalating.
Got in my face. I couldn't back out. One of them had a bunch of our CDs and he was throwing them at me like cards.
Whoever it was got one look at Jim walking up to the dust-up and beat it.
Listen to this.
Dwayne started to catch his breath. Seth and I leaned into the conclave. Dwayne nodded.
When we were coming back just now, I looked up from the freeway and saw the Right Reverend's face. He's got a billboard.
Dwayne lit up.
3 of them, actually. Got all his social media listed there so big you can read them.
A shadow crept across Dwayne's face.
Then it says, where the Spirit of the Lord truly is.
Everyone looked at the church's slogan on the side of the bus. Seth stood straight up. "I'm going to Billy Goat's. I'll be right back." He was oifaboodle. I gave Dwayne some money to take the crew to dinner. I didn't want them seeing or smelling Seth when he came back from doing whatever he needed to do at Billy Goat's. I left the front door open for him. I was halfway across the praying floor when the stentorian voice I'd been most loath to hear drawled like old rattlesnake bones behind me. "Your birds are all gone, sir." The last of the mockingbirds were gone by Thursday evening. Only stragglers remained. Even the pigeons had vacated their space on the roof by Friday afternoon. I turned around to face the Right Reverend Randall Roberts peeking in the front door. Randy was right behind him, holding a black umbrella over his daddy's head.
What a miracle it is that the health department didn't get any complaints. That's one building violation off your buffet plate.
No good would come of this. "What are you doing here?" I crossed my arms in defiance.
Nothing much, just trying to be friendly. I think we got off on the wrong foot before, and I want to start over. Maybe we can still be friends. We might even become allies. I don't see why not. What do you think?
The Right Reverend stepped inside before I could block the way. Randy closed the umbrella and followed his daddy into the sanctuary.
You've pissed Seth off too much for that. If he comes home and sees you here, he's gonna go nuclear and do something none of us can come back from. Will y'all please leave before that happens?
I waited for the Right Reverend to take a hike out of common decency, but he just stood there in the narthex with his pink and gold fingers drumming on top of his belly. His nose seemed to be scraping samples out of the air, trying to identify something in the church's atmosphere. He spoke like a politician.
Actually, I can understand his frustration. I honestly can. It gets my goat a little too. I feel like our advertising budgets, me with the TV and y'all with that bus I've been seeing every time I'm out running errands around the house, may have been working against one another these past couple of weeks.
He steepled his fingers in front of his face.
I know we're stepping on each other's toes, but that's just part of learning how to dance. I've got plenty of room in my organization for talent. And I'm talking about talent in the front office as well as on the stage.
The Right Reverend crossed over in front of me on his way to inspect the light banks along the western wall. I was trying to keep my eye on him when I heard a clatter out on the patio. A huge bear shadow raised up behind the closed blinds.
What's that?
I yipped as the dark shape stalked past the window towards the open front door.
Just my Asa. You know my boys.
The Reverend beamed when he spoke of his sons.
Asa smelled something gassy out there around your grills. He spent a couple summers out in the gas fields and now he's got a nose. He's just being neighborly.
The shadowy bulk materialized at the door. It was Asa Roberts in the doughy flesh with his goofy aviator shades and natty mullet. He saw me and half stifled a sneer as I took a step back to let him pass. Asa whispered to the Reverend and showed him something on a small notepad. I saw that he had one of those stubby little pencils without an eraser that come with board games for keeping score. It looked so tiny pinched in his big old paw. I didn't even notice Seth entering the front gate.
Glasses, where you at? Who's the U-boat commander that shipwrecked that black caddy out there blocking my fire lane?
Seth's toe had barely touched the sanctuary floor when the Reverend cut him off.
My. It's just the soul I come for. I feel like I've been waiting on you forever. And now I've found you.
Congratulations, dickless Tracy. You found me. Now get. Seth motioned for them to exit, but everyone just stood there like in a shootout.
You got a hell of a lot of nerve showing up here after screwing me out of that Nailin' Hammers tour,
Seth spit. I think that's the first time the Right Reverend realized that he and Seth had met before. The sagging skin around his eyes parted to register lukewarm surprise.
Nailin' Hammers?
He lazily inspected Seth.
Is that where I know you from? I knew I'd seen you somewhere.
The Reverend waved it off.
Pshaw, that's an awful long time ago. All that's bygone. Besides, if living well is the best revenge, you seem to be having the last laugh on me.
Seth balled his fingers up into fists. I'm not laughing. That's when Asa and Randy insinuated themselves between Seth and their daddy.
You even think you're yarding on my old man, the two of us are gonna tussle,
Asa warned. Seth drew himself up to his full 8-inch advantage in height and stared balefully down the crag of his nose at Asa.
Jump if you're feeling froggy, but you'll be eating blueberries for breakfast for the next month if you do.
Seth was ready to rip it up. Asa probably had a good 40 pounds on him, not to mention Randy, but it would take a whole lot more weight than that to get Seth to back down. Asa spoke up over his shoulder.
You want me to slide him, Daddy?
Seth took a quick step closer to Asa.
Man, I've never been slid, and you're not the one.
His fingers snapped beneath Asa's nose. He took a quick look over at me.
Who is this chooch?
The Reverend answered for me.
That's my boy Asa. He and his brother are tools in my work, and a light in my day. Couple of tools, all right.
Seth was breathing all over Asa's face. Asa took the insult as such and closed the last gap.
I give you one free one on me, but I'll stomp a mud hole in your ass if you don't watch your sass around my daddy.
There were nostrils flaring and eyeballs glaring, and neither one of them budged. Seth's shoulders were set in concrete. Red anger filled Asa's face up like a fever blister. The Reverend spoke up.
Come on, y'all. I don't want to have to toss a bucket on you two hound dogs. Why don't you whip out your willies and piss on the other one's leg already so I can get back to talking?
The Right Reverend made himself at home, strolling around the sanctuary like he was in an exhibit. The rest of us turned on a swivel, watching him play with the stroboscopes, enthralled by the cutout shapes like a child. He spoke as he poked about the space.
It was back when I was about your age that I got the opportunity to preach in a room about this size. I wasn't anybody to anyone, but the Lord gave me 15 minutes on Saturday night, and that's all it took. God sent a great man with a sharp eye to take the measure of my testimony.
The Reverend inspected the walls and he kept sniffing the air like a dog trying to pick up a scent.
That 15-minute look's all it took to convince that great man to take me up under his wing.
He threw a finger over his shoulder at Asa and Randy.
If it weren't for these boys' granddaddy, well, I wouldn't be a stitch of the man that I am today.
The Reverend commanded the room as he walked towards the stage, stopping to inspect a speaker mount right down to the screws. He was something else, but it's hard to button. I think he was just a star.
Shoot, I could have just as easily gotten stuck in Beaumont reading Bible verses in some old warehouse like this if it hadn't been for the proper guidance in my career.
The Reverend looked back and waited until Seth looked at him. Then he held up a finger.
And that's why I never forget. I'll never forget that someone helped me on the way up.
He lifted his finger into the air.
That's why I hold it as a solemn duty to seek out and nurture the next generation of talent that is dedicating their gift to the glory of God.
I was rapt by the metronomic squeak of his loafers.
I run my Saturday night talent roundup out of Grand Prairie for years, and I come up with more than my fair share of hidden gems just off those open mics.
Even Seth held his tongue while he watched the Right Reverend limping in the dark.
Once I get enough acts, I go back out on one of my showcase tours. I usually do one in the fall and another one in the spring that ends with livestock. That's where you want to be seen if you're looking to take your skills to the next level.
When he reached the foot of the stage, he turned and leaned his seat between the footlights. The Right Reverend bent his head towards the floor.
It's done nothing but glorify the Lord and bring me and my kin comfort as we walk the earth.
He looked old and it took him a moment to catch his breath. His eyelids were moving. He seemed to notice a phantom thread on his breast pocket that he proceeded to pick off and jettison to the floor. The Reverend's eyes looked back up at Seth through the mad, unkempt bristle of his black eyebrows. Then he straightened up and smiled.
Brother Smith, I guess what I'm here to say is this. I've been in this game a long time. I've been preaching for 40 years and people know I know talent. I'm gifted in all that I do.
He crossed his arms, shook his head, and smiled like he was genuinely winsome.
Now, word of mouth is all I heard so far, but from what I seen on that video you put up, you're the man. You speak proper, and you can handle running at least one or two good routines at once. I like your tight pacing when you speak. It's snap, snap, snaps.
The Right Reverend machine-gunned his fingers.
You don't let your flock lead you. You take them right where you want them to go. I can see it. It's good. It's how I came up in my younger days. I was a natural, and you are too, boy. Who knows? If we cut that hair, brighten up your wardrobe, I bet I could convince my investors to put you in one of my church's tents for a featured spot of livestock this Easter. If you knock them dead like I seen you doing on the computer, well, I can pretty much guarantee you paying gigs all the way from Dodge City back home to Dallas. Miss Mary Castillo's not the only one with a phone book, you know. I got a little anniversary tour coming up over this summer, too. You could open up, hone your act in front of some of the thirstiest Christian crowds you are ever likely to find. If I introduce you to my flock, then who knows what bounty the Lord might bring us all. I've seen plenty of prodigies and natural-born showmen, and listened to more than my fair share of preachers. My brother, you got the makings. That raw clay that just needs the right hand to mold it. I could give you pointers that only come from half a century in the business. I could be an advisor, say. I could be a really big help.
I looked over at Seth to see if any of this was sinking in. Seth's jaw pulsed like he was busily cracking walnuts with his wisdom teeth. He has a low tolerance for condescension, and his lips were tensed away into non-existence. He snorted a quick inhale. He gave Asa the slip and crossed the praying floor.
A gig? You're offering me a gig? Are you gonna help us out like you helped Dwayne? Are you gonna help me like you helped that reporter? I don't give you 2 months before Franken starts getting the cold shoulder from you. Same as you're doing Mary. I've got personal experience with how you help people. I'm not that impressed. That's just something that I'm not willing to overlook in the name of being your show poodle. Besides, you know I don't need you. You're here because you know it's over for you, and now you need a life preserver. But I'd rather be nobody and watch the water take you. I'm the crest of the next wave, and I'm gonna break over your head. I swear I'm gonna laugh when you get it. Your time is done. In the business, and here right now.
Seth went to reach for the Right Reverend's arm, but Randy leaned in and beat him to it. Come on, Daddy. The Right Reverend looked down like he was really affected by Seth's scolding. But when he looked back up, he was in full smirk. He shrugged his shoulders.
Well, I guess we better leave you fellas to your own business.
The Reverend walked slow through the sanctuary.
Man can only do so much, and then it's time for the Lord to step in. I'll carry on until he says it's time. That's when my time is done. Until then, I'm good at turning cheeks. Yeah? Well, kiss my ass.
The Reverend halted and crinkled his nose up in the air.
Say, y'all might want to think about letting this place air out a bit. I do think there might be something in here playing havoc with my emphysema. Maybe y'all should lay off that incense for a week or two. Maybe check for black mold. Building inspectors got no mercy on airborne contaminants. They get a call and come in here, they'll start handing out citations for health hazards so fast it'll make your head spin how they do. Before you know it, they got you shut down for 6 months cleaning out ducts and HVAC. Then what do you do? Thanks for the concern,
Seth grumbled as he started shooing the Reverend out the door. The Reverend talked shit all the way.
Tips cost money. I give good old-fashioned free advice, like this. Double check your zoning. If this building ain't zoned for public gathering, then your goose is cooked.
Seth nudged the Reverend over the verge, saying,
Yeah, well, I think we've got all your wisdom we can stomach for now. Thanks for stopping by and being such a help. Happy New Year. Go screw.
Seth pinched off any further invective and left it at that. Asa handed his daddy a peppermint and then took the Reverend by the arm to steady him. They reached the gate and the Reverend turned back around. His hangdog eyes took a last scan over the gutters, checking for falling bird. Then he popped the candy in his mouth. He spoke up between sucks.
Take what I said to heart. Talk it over with Jesus in your prayers. He'll tell you I'm right now, you hear? Come on, boys, it's cold out here. Let's get home to your mama.
The sky was red. The west was on fire.